invitation to the event. All right, so Professor Casagranda, anytime you want to start.
Okay,
we'll wait a little bit. And, yeah.
All right.
Yes, Rosetta's here. Okay, Rosetta's here. We can start.
Hi. Shall we start now? Okay. So I'm very happy to be able to introduce this meeting. Actually, it's the fourth time that we have an event like this fourth edition of this workshop with Licia CANTON at the University of Calabria. Before going on, actually, there is here with us, we have Annafrancesca Naccarato, who is the coordinator of the two of the BA and the MA programs in modern languages and cultures and modern languages and literatures. And I would like to, let her say a few words to introduce also this event, and then I'll just say a few more things and then we'll
Grazie Mirko. Allora io volevo soltanto ringraziare anche questa volta Licia per la sua presenza e per aver organizzato nuovamente questo workshop con un tema quest'anno, devo dire, a mio avviso bellissimo, forse fra i più belli, questa idea della realizzazione attraverso la scrittura della rigenerazione, in qualche modo mi pare anche molto attenta al periodo che abbiamo vissuto e quindi anche molto attuale. E del resto questa idea ci è particolarmente vicina perché in realtà molti di noi in ambiti diversi ovviamente fanno proprio questo, dovrebbero far questo come attività principale. Questo workshop è veramente un'opportunità importantissima per i nostri studenti perché io direi sì, da un lato completa, arricchisce in qualche modo il loro percorso formativo, ma credo sia qualcosa di più perché va ben oltre quelle che sono poi le attività disciplinari che noi svolgiamo regolarmente. Quindi permette loro veramente di diciamo esprimersi in maniera appunto individuale, mettendo in pratica tutto quello che negli anni hanno acquisito, ma anche in modo originale e personale. Quindi io ci tengo moltissimo, spero che questa cosa continuerà nel tempo. E quindi grazie a Licia, grazie a Mirko ovviamente, perché poi è lui ad occuparsi dell'organizzazione di questo workshop e a tutti gli studenti e le studentesse che hanno partecipato. Io vi ascolterò per un po', a un certo punto dovrò andare via, quindi vi lascio già adesso i miei saluti e spero di ritrovarvi magari in presenza il prossimo anno. Grazie.
Thank you. Grazie Annafrancesca. Thank you very much. I mean, this is possible also because of you, because we want this to be part of our programs and our courses. Before giving the mic, right, passing the mic to Licia and to the for their readings, I just would like to thank the Department of Humanities who actually supporting this in terms of motivation and mission, but also in terms of funding. So thank you very much for that. I would like, of course, to Licia for her motivating our students, for being also, I'd say, a constant presence now with this workshop, because this is actually the fourth time. This that it's such an opportunity that, as Annafrancesca was saying, we would like to have this also in the future. Maybe we will move it, not on Friday night, but on a different afternoon, or maybe our morning will be impossible for you, so maybe we'll have a different timetable. But anyway, able to do this again next year. And of course, I'd like to thank the students, the 8 students that participated in the workshop this year, for taking actually some time off also to, you know, work on their projects, especially on Fridays. And I would like to thank also ELAN for their support. It's been, I think that this is the 4th time that we're doing this, or maybe no, it's the 3rd time, because the first time was in presence. So they've been part of the project as well. So thank you for that. All the participants here, Anastasia, actually took part in the workshop 3 years ago, and all the people that are to this wonderful stories, to this wonderful project. So thank you very much. As Annafrancesca said, the topic is thriving through writing. So after 3 years of, you know, the pandemic, that's what we're trying to do. So we'll want to thrive and heal from everything. And I'm pretty sure that the 8 stories that we're going to listen are all a way. So thank you again. Licia, whenever you want.
Thank you very much, Professor Casagranda, and grazie, Professoressa Naccarato, for your kind words. I would like to ask you to mute, please. There are some people in the Zoom who are not muted, and so we want to avoid any sounds while the readers are reading. And if you can also remove or stop your video if you're not one of the readers, because that would help. Buonasera, benvenuti. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I mean, we have people in Vancouver, we have people in Montreal, we have people in Italy. Thank you everyone for being here. And we're excited to listen to our 8 emerging writers. But first, let me begin by acknowledging that I am located on unceded Indigenous lands. Tiohtià:ke, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. We acknowledge them and other nations who care for the land across our country, and we pay our respects to Canada's first storytellers. We're going to begin with the readings, but first I'd like to express my thanks to the workshop participants, our 8 emerging writers, Caterina, Tiziana, Chiara Maria, Carmen, Emma, Fabiola, Fabiana, and Anastasia. Congratulations on the work that you've done thus far. It has been a real pleasure to spend the last few weeks with you all, and I look forward to perhaps meeting you in Calabria sometime soon, or in Montreal. You've worked hard. You know that you've worked hard. I know that you've worked hard. You may be a little bit nervous about sharing your writing. Some of the contributions are quite personal, quite touching. You may be nervous because English is not your first language, but you're here, you're going to do this. This is part of going beyond your comfort zone. I also want to note very quickly that some readers have weak connections, so we might lose them. If that happens to you, doesn't matter, even if you're reading, just come back as soon as you can and we'll just reintegrate you into the program. I want my turn to thank Professor Casagranda, Professor Naccarato, University of Calabria, the department, the participants of this workshop, and everyone who is here today to support them, to listen to them. And also thank you very much to ISOCETEL and ELAN and Accenti. I'm going to be introducing the emerging writers one at a time. You come to the microphone, you read your story, and I'm sure Professor Casagranda and Anastasia Parisi, sorry, there are 2 Anastasias today, will perhaps say a few words, comment very briefly on your writing. Okay, are we ready? Everybody's ready? All right, it's in alphabetical order. So It's my pleasure to call Caterina AMORUSO to the microphone. Caterina, welcome.
Hello to everyone. My name is Caterina AMORUSO, and the title of my story is The Awakening. The waiting room was small with different upholstery chairs, each of a different color and size. Walking in, I quickly looked around and chose to sit in the green one. It was under the window where a weak ray of sunlight came seeping through the pane, laying itself neatly on the chair in a broken thin line. A young couple sat in front of me, absorbed in their own thoughts. They avoided eye contact and were reluctant in communicating with each other. In a far corner on the opposite side, sitting in the yellow chair, was a young woman with fine brown hair. Her full lips and drained eyes revealed an inner sadness. She frantically squeezed her hands in the gesture of wanting to get up and leave. The gesticulation was very familiar to me. The pinching of the skin was a deliberate act in repressing fears and anxieties. I closed my eyes and blocked the image of the young girl before me. It all came back to me in a rush of seconds. I was seated in my school chair, second seat in a row of 5 desks. The morning bell had just rung, and Mrs. O'Neill walked through the aisles, greeting and giving a hearty good morning to each of her students. She paused in front of me and observed me closely. I kept my head low, avoiding her eyes. My gaze was fixed on the long beige sleeves. I was wearing my favorite sweater and t-shirt. I started to fiddle with my 2 long braids as she lowered herself to my eye level. "Honey, is everything fine?" Mrs. O'Neill asked. I sat still, no longer moving. My throat suddenly tightened and shrunk. I could not answer, and I throbbed to breathe. I started to clench my palms, intertwining uncontrollably my fingers. She reached out and gently took my hand. "Honey, please come with me," she said softly. I reluctantly moved out of my desk, keeping my head low, and followed her towards the coat locker. It was a small, closed, rectangular space within the classroom, where each morning we would hang our coats. She called in another teacher, and approaching her, she whispered a few words. Looking at me in a compassionate way, Mrs. Fraser said, "Dear, could you take off your sweater and slowly lift your t-shirt?" I slightly nodded and obeyed to her request. Their facial expressions turned from utter calm to facial shock. My small, slender body was full of bruises and scratches. Mrs. O'Neill moved in closer and hesitantly asked, "Could you please tell us how this happened? This is the second time. I know you are afraid, but we can help you." I did not respond or move, even though they pursued in questioning me. Mrs. O'Neill then decided to call in my older sister, who was in the classroom next to mine. She slowly walked into the coat locker, trying to understand what was happening. She was olive skinned, tall and slender, her dark hair tied up in a long ponytail. My sister moved towards me and understood why she had been called. There was a moment of hesitation before anything was pronounced. Mrs. O'Neill, gently looking towards her, said, "I don't think your sister is feeling well, honey. Do you think you could give us an explanation?" By then I was in complete tears as I gazed towards my sister. My eyes pleaded for her to help me to avoid any further questioning and explanations. My older sister turned towards the teachers and swiftly responded. "Nothing unusual has happened," as she shrugged her shoulders. "We were both roughly playing in the park and accidentally rolled down a small steep hill, hurting ourselves. It is nothing to be worried about." The teachers looked at each other and nodding sent my sister back to her classroom, and I was sent to my seat. I again lowered my head and sluggishly walked away. As I stepped out of the coat locker, I heard them saying, "How sad. What must we do? Can anything be done?" I sat in my desk and covered my ears as my frail, quiet essence could bear no more of these uneasy moments of hurt and discomfort. The door opened and Dr. Prue announced my name, inviting me to step into his office. I opened my eyes and greeted him with a gentle smile. Today was my last session. I would probably miss these scheduled appointments every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. It had been a challenging journey, and I was finally giving it a positive turning point. I was leaving my past behind and dealing with it, pushing aside uncertainties and channeling my inner feelings towards a better path. I realized that life had to be lived to its fullest. I stood up, and as I walked towards the doctor's door, I reflected and knew that the next day would be different for me. Tomorrow was awaiting. It would be a new awakening and a new start. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caterina, for sharing your story. It's very moving. I look forward to more of your writing.
Yeah, and it seems like part of something else, something larger, isn't it? I mean, we want to, more about this story, and yeah, it was, as Licia said, moving, and I enjoyed the how you used details, especially in terms of colors, feelings, to convey some details, to make it real. So it was, you could actually feel it, not only with your with your mind, but also with your body almost. And I think that this is a very good example of also the idea that we have this year, like thriving through writing or healing through writing, because this awakening is and will be a form of healing, especially. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor.
Thanks, maybe.
Thank you. All right. It's my pleasure to call Tiziana CIMATO to the microphone. Tiziana.
Hello, everyone. 22. It's been a year since Emma's mother was hired by the largest and most important banking company in New Jersey, and perhaps in the internation. Not that it sounded new for her, since her mother's work turned her life upside down at least every year. This time I'll promise you we'll stay here until graduation, her mother used to tell her. You will make new friends. What mattered to her mother was that Emma graduated with honors and followed in the footsteps of her older sister Phoebe, who had mysteriously died a few weeks earlier. However, Emma was not interested in biomedical engineering. After her sister's death, Emma felt crushed by the weight of her mother's expectations. If you don't study all day, you can't go out, her mother used to say, as if Emma cared. Studying every day and night just to prove she was the smartest girl in the city, or spending afternoons in shopping malls, gossiping and going dancing were not in her comfort zone. For some time, she had been trying to feel everyday life, not to think about her sister's death. So she read a book about the supernatural, which she borrowed from her friend Sarah. Not that she believed in ghosts, but it hadn't been a particularly easy summer for Emma. She fell into depression and began to lead a wild life after discovering that her sister had dated her ex-boyfriend. But she was still her sister. It was even more difficult to accept her death because they had had a rocky relationship before her death. That summer had been particularly strange. In fact, she saw the number 22 everywhere. She was practically haunted by its presence, on tables in bars, on license plates, in school books. When she looked at the clock in the evening, it was always 10 p.m. Convinced that it was hallucinations due to antidepressants, she ignored it. One night in September, she dreamed of a voice that said on the phone, "Your reservation from room 22 of our hotel has been made. She was tormented by this dream almost every night. Days went by, and she made an effort to smile, to talk about common things. She pretended to have a normal life, but it wasn't like that. She started school, but she wasn't very interested. What interested her was most to discover what had happened to her sister that night. What had happened? There were no leads or clues. The weekend she died, Phoebe had gone to Denver. She had told her mother it was for her studies. No one could be angry with a girl whose only thought was studying. Perhaps an envious friend, perhaps suicide, maybe she had been dissatisfied. All these thoughts followed one another in Emma's mind. She had confused memories of that summer. Finally, after 1 month, there was news about Phoebe's death. She had died at 10 p.m. and her body was found in a hotel room, number 22. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiziana, for sharing your story. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. There was a kind of mystery, right? I mean, it's similar to the other story because there is always something to find out, to figure out here. We don't know how what's going on. We need to find out actually what this is all about. And in your case, yeah, like a sort of thriller with this the idea of trauma, of a traumatic event, and how memory plays a very important role in that. So the past and the present intertwining somehow. So I enjoyed that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, where did you get this from?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, is there something that like inspired you to write this?
Yes, actually, I always read books about mystery. Since I was a child, I always loved this genre. So I thought
so, because I mean, there are some models there.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
so interested.
Yeah, you use them very, very well. So that's very nice. Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you
Other
very
comments,
much.
maybe?
Thank you very much, Tiziana. I was just wondering, I mean, I know that Professor Casagranda will comment after every story, and I'm wondering if Anastasia Parise, anytime you want to unmute, and also if you would like to comment, feel free.
And I'd say, right? Maybe at the end.
I didn't get that. Sorry.
Anastasia.
No, if you just want to say something.
Oh yeah, yeah. I particularly enjoyed that. Thank you for sharing your stories, both Caterina and Tiziana. I enjoyed your story, and there are some common themes. I think, like the remembrance, and well, you both had such an attention to details, the characterizations of the of the characters of the protagonists of the story. And both use some vivid descriptions of the scenes, like you really were able to transport the reader in the scene that you were picturing. So thank you for that. And there were also like delicate themes that both of you wrote about. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and particularly like the glimpse of hope at the end of Caterina's story, and also the plot twist in Tiziana's one. So thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tiziana. All right, so it's my pleasure now to call Chiara Maria Frandina to the microphone. Chiara Maria.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's very important to me. Eliantus annus. I was in Bologna one April night. My friend Miriam and French roommate Julia suggested to go on a mission to the nearest discount store. The aim was to find a dinner meal for Julia, We couldn't let the spearhead of Italian-French magistracy starve to death. Julia, with a capital G, Miriam's other roommate, also came with us. The store was literally in front of the house. Only one road severed us from the shop. We had only crossed the street and tried to not get hit by a car. What could have gone wrong? We were reaching the sidewalk when time stopped, and I felt paralyzed by the moonbeams shifting through the clouds. Shortly after, I was standing still in the middle of the street. Time resumed its flow. I noticed that Julia was collecting colorful tulips from the roundabout, and nearby there was a green field where Miriam and Julia were dancing techno, their new great passion, under a giant elm tree. For a moment, I believed that I was hallucinating, but I wasn't. I was just witnessing one of the most nonsensical scenes of my life. Suddenly, I heard Julia screaming. An elm tree branch had scratched her face while she was dancing. Clearly, natural revenge. But nothing, nor even nature, could have prevented us from completing our mission. Bravely and quickly, because the store was closing, we entered the shop, and during our exploration, I got lost in the gardening section. A tiny sack of sunflower seeds caught my attention. That was a sign. I needed to apologize to nature. Planting sunflower on my balcony in Brande sounded good. One sunflower for each tulip plucked by Julia. While I was paying for the sunflower seeds, doubts assailed me. Will my seeds pass security checks? Will I be arrested for smuggling plants? Will I be in a new episode of Airport Security Bologna edition? Without any hesitation, I inserted the PIN code of my card. 25 cents. The best investment of my life, indeed. There's just one detail, my dear reader and eventually listener, that I forgot to mention. I really am not keen on gardening, but for some reason, my two calantry plants named Clelia and Rogelia are looking great. To be honest, they look healthier than I do. Once back in Brande, I bought the soil to plant my seeds. My roommates weren't really thrilled about what I was planting in some Nutella jars using our tablespoon, but they supported me anyways. I watered the tiny seeds every day, and a few days ago I found the early buds of baby sunflowers. In gardening, as in life, time, patience, hope, and caring for small but meaningful things are essential for a flourishing garden. But if you ask me, a gardener, you may need a bit of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiara Maria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I enjoy the metaphor here, right? Life and plants and gardening. So the way you have to plant seeds and water them and see them grow. And again, that's also a form, it's a therapeutic, I would say, right? Gardening as a healing again. So in this case, probably the best to describe this would be blossoming. So how plants blossom, but also people and our lives. So thank you very much.
If I may, I really like the metaphor as well of the garden as a life where you need time and patience to thrive, as the workshop counts, and also like the bit of satirical kind of ironic twist that we had, like with the not keen on gardening thing at the very end, and the adjust to the reader and listener, just to get us in the story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. And now it is my pleasure to call Carmen Fucile to the microphone. Carmen, the microphone is yours.
Hello, I'm Carmen, and my short story is titled A Portrait of the Curmudgeon as a Middle-Aged Man. "Mom, please, 5 minutes," he mumbled. A blinding light and a beeping sound woke him up. Still numb, eyesight blurred, he recognized a female silhouette next to his bed. He perceived a strong smell of lemon-scented sanitizer and a more reassuring one of cooked food. Everything around him looked insistently white, except for his black suit and blue shirt folded on a chair. He had to get up, otherwise he would have been late for school. However, he could not move. His neck was immobilized in a brace, and his left leg was plastered. Suddenly, he remembered it all. A rainy Friday evening, the umpteenth resume torn to pieces, a car ride towards home. YouTube asked him, "Are you still watching?" He tried to answer yes, because he wasn't asleep or dead yet. Then a lorry pushed his car aside. Disappointed, he knew he wasn't going to be late for school. He was late for everything else. In his 50s, just fired from his job and just divorced. As if he had just bitten the fruit of forbidden knowledge and had been punished with immobility. Being stuck in a hospital bed and blinded by such aseptic and neutral whiteness irritated him and reminded him he was stuck in his life as well, and he was sick and tired of it. As his eyesight got clearer, he noticed that the woman next to him was his daughter. "Have you slept well?" she asked in a playful tone to conceal her worries. "So well, I wish I could sleep a little more," he answered with bitter irony, pretending he was glad to see her. A few days later, he was released. "Well, it's been just a short holiday. It's not that serious," he told her while she was driving home. "Whatever, Pops, you're going to stay with us until you get back." He shivered. He would have to cope with a body that didn't work properly and a daughter he had only seen twice in the past 14 years. His son-in-law was the reason for this, and he hadn't seen his grandsons since they were born. As soon as he entered their home, he was warmly welcomed. They had even lit the fireplace to keep him warm, but he was suspicious. They hardly knew him. Were they nice because they had wronged him or because they pitied him? He was already sick of it all. "Let me just rest on the sofa." But they insisted he slept in one of the boys' rooms. "Pops, just call us whatever you need," his son-in-law whispered and rushed him to the room. He didn't even have the time to complain and the door was shut. He found himself looking out of the window next to his temporary bed, dreaming about the day he would be back to his hovel, far away from that sickening politeness. It was a snowy evening. Again, everything was obsessively white. Wouldn't it have been better for him to pretend he was still asleep in his hospital room? He even thought that the smell of that lemon-scented sanitizer was less unbearable than that of the pies his daughter and grandsons baked for him on Saturday afternoons. They weren't really cooking for him, he kept thinking, but just because they were bored. But as time went by, he had to admit that whether they cooked for him or to waste their time, he really enjoyed their pastries. What he didn't like were their questions about his health. Did they really care about him? Well, he thought, obviously they didn't. Even if they did, he didn't need them. He was a mature, independent man. He didn't need all of that mawkishness. He hated when somebody brought him dinner on the sofa and sat with him for a chit-chat, especially his fretting, estranged grandsons. He tried to answer politely their numerous questions, but he often concluded by mumbling, "Time to go to sleep, isn't it?" But he reckoned that as he got better, those funny and nosy troublemakers were not so bad. At least they sounded like the only honest people in the house, sometimes brutally honest. And his suspicions were confirmed one evening when, sitting on the sofa and chatting with them as usual, the youngest of them hugged his arm and squeaked, "We love you, Grandpa." He didn't know how to react. For the first time, he had nothing to doubt. No awkward questions, no trust issues. Again, he felt as if he had just eaten the whole fruit of forbidden knowledge. But this time, he wasn't going to be punished. He knew he had been rewarded with somebody who cared for him and loved him in spite of his quirks. And he hugged them back without saying a word.
Thank you very much, Carmen. We look forward to reading the longer version of this story at some point in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like there should be more. Yeah, I like the way you actually conveyed this feeling. Yeah, feeling stuck somehow, which is something that we can all relate to. I guess it's like an old life, but speaking about something that is universal. Also, the imagery that you used, the fruit of forbidden knowledge and being punished, but then sort of redemption in the end, which is something that we are all looking for, or we all want to experience. That I'm quite happy about, the way you used the topic of the workshop this year, because it's working very well. I mean, also that there is always this reference, this metaphor behind your stories. It's not just a description of things, but it's hinting at something else, and it's stated, which is, I think, what makes writing, good writing. So well done. Thank you. I don't know, I think I have a very bad connection today. Not sure about it. Yeah, it's my fault. I'm sorry about that. I don't know why.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carmen. All right, then. It's my pleasure to call Emma MILICCHIO to the microphone. Emma, we want to see your lips back up just a little bit. Okay, great. Yes, thank you.
Clean for a day. Clear is the memory of how all of this started. The summer season at its scalding peak. Days, weeks, months spent on a single topic, every time deeper than I could believe. At first there were sentences, then paragraphs longer, and with each ending line, I never stopped toiling, even if I did falter. So then pages followed each other, one by one, from 1 to 5 to 10 to 40. Then I was done. But was I? No, I wasn't. My wish still not granted. A goal every time closer, easier to grasp and touch at the end. As months ran through the calendar and I gave it my level best, the cold winter season knocked on my door like a polite expected guest. One metaphorical door opening later, there we were, my kin and I, all striving to make one single day special, since it was my time to shine. But why, some may ask, what's the reason behind all that? Easy. It was but the crowning achievement of long, long years of work, finished at last. First on the list were decorations, balloons and streamers, white, red, and blue, Union Jack themed in honor of a language much akin to a golden key that opens up the world as it turns on its axis. Every dawn brought a date closer to its arrival, and as it drew ever nearer, my thoughts began to spiral. What if I mess up, or stumble, or blunder? I just can't afford that, not in front of all the others. Friends, family, and people who stood by my side, who one way or the other helped, academia or life-wise. Thank God none of that happened. Went through my speech with hard, solid confidence to then so proudly hold a BA in modern cultures and languages. Sadly, some couldn't show, but made a point to keep that promise. And I know, even months later, they haven't forgotten about it. Of that day, I have but memories, precious pieces of time forever frozen, like the smile on my face as I happily post for one. It's still in the living room, right next to another, surrounded by party favors and almonds sugar covered. Sometimes I look at it, then smile, again reminded of that moment, all the while going back to being crowned in fresh laurels, queen for a day, just before January was over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emma, for sharing and for remembering a glorious moment.
Yeah, thank you. It's true. And again, memory. So how important it is. Also, well, the musicality of that, of course. Very nice, very well done. So, of course, the rhymes. So I really enjoyed not only, let's say, the content, but also the fact that you used language to, yeah, talk about language. So the idea of a page and then another one, a word, a sentence, and then something larger. So how, yeah, you, some with language and its form. So again, the musicality of that. So very nice, very well done. Yeah.
Thank you.
If I may, I'm sorry, I had technical problems before, so I couldn't say anything about Carmen, but I just wanted to say a couple of things. Like, I really appreciated the story, and I also felt like there was more to it. Like, you want to know more as the story goes, and you really wrote about modern themes, I think, like feeling stuck in one's life and the sickening politeness and all of that. I really appreciated that. And also, Emma, I think that there is this kind of theme of remembrance, of memory that goes through all the stories that we've heard, like, I think. And also Emma's ones was very modern as well. Of course, we have the graduation, we have the academia, and this feeling that I think is very, I believe it's very common in academia, of the anxiety of messing things up, but in the end everything goes well. So you have this good memory of that day. So yeah, they were both good stories. Thank you for sharing them.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Anastasia. All right. It's my pleasure to call Fabiola Prezioso to the microphone.
Hi.
Hi.
So the title of my story is Blossoming. There was a wall between me and the world, and another between me and my own mind. One day you decide to stay home alone all day, and that's okay. But then it happened again and again, and you start to feel better in that way. It's strange because the reality is hard to accept, and you just pretend to be comfortable in that place. What's the scariest thing in the world? Everyone will say death, but this is not better than that. The pressure of perfection or nothing. But it's actually the desire of being perfect that will never allow us to reach the real perfection, or probably it doesn't exist, and this is the reality. When you spend your entire life thinking about it, your days seem to disappear, searching for something that will never be yours. But the real question is, are you scared of the world or scared of yourself? Are you scared of the world or scared of your own mind? Because sometimes our mind seems like something completely detached from us. You want to live, but your mind doesn't want to. What if it's the fear of going out from the world you created? It's true, people will take advantage of you. They will treat you like an object, but most of the time you treat yourself like an object too. You put yourself on a chair in a messy room or under your own bed. So what's the point of everyday life? Born again. Every day, every morning, we have to wake up and be born again. Live without thinking that perfection is an option and searching for some kind of order in our mind. Because if you let your thoughts completely free of going out, you will always be stuck in some loops and you will never live. It's not as easy as seems because your thoughts will run away from you. But step by step, try to not put yourself under your own bed. Try to not put yourself on a chair of your messy room and open your window because there's a lot outside of that loop. This is hard to understand for everyone, but it was even harder for Hel, who was struggling to look at herself in the mirror every morning and to do something without mentally punishing herself. She had so many aspirations in life that didn't allow her to live, but she found comfort in all this. The creation of the loop in which you put yourself in order to not collapse. When I first met her, I could immediately see the pain in her soul, and I heard it by touching her hand without purpose. It was the first day of my last year of high school, and it was a rewind to normality for me. I had a relapse that summer, but I was better at the time, and I could confirm it because I could see the colors of the things around me. But when she came in our class, she was the only one in black and white. I talked to her 2 times the first month of school, when she asked me for a pen and when I asked her why she changed school. She answered with just 3 words, my parents divorced, and nothing more, but I decided to not reply. Then I don't know what happened that day in class. Sitting side by side, my phone started to ring in the middle of the lesson and I was extremely embarrassed. She just laughed, looking at me in a comfortable way. We understood each other without talking. The next day, she asked me if I wanted to study with her, and then everything became simple. We have always had this connection, not only mental or intellectual, but our souls were connected in some way. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Fabiola, for sharing. And I look forward to hearing more about Elle in other writing.
Yeah, thank you very much. About, you know, when 2 souls connect, I think. So it could be friendship, it could be more, it could be love, it could be, yeah, that feeling that we all experience, or if we are lucky enough to do so. I was impressed by the way you started with this you, so it sounded really like almost giving advice, you know, was kind of, yeah, in order to be born again, live again, to get rid of all those, all that nonsense about being perfect and so on and so forth. So that you have of the pronoun you, and all of a sudden it's like it flips, it's different perspective, and then you start with the I pronoun. So your person, oh well, not your personal story, but the personal experience, the personal story of the narrative voice. That was nice, because it was quite a moment of change, actually, also in the narrative. So I appreciated that. Thank you.
Yes, if I may, thank you for sharing this story. It was very moving, and I also like the reading as well, the performance. And it's also something that we can all more or less resonate with, all these modern themes, as well as we were talking before about mental health. And there are also like all these invisible strings between all these readings. We have the mental health with Tiziana, who talked about depression as well, the blossoming, as the professor said before, for Chiara Maria, and also this feeling of remembrance overall. So thank you. It was really moving.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Fabiola. All right, it's my pleasure to welcome Fabiana Torchia to the microphone. Fabiana.
Hello, everybody. I am Fabiana, and I wrote a letter to myself. Dear Fabiana, it's just you and me now. You can continue to run away, not this time. You can continue to lie to yourself. and to be part of this script that doesn't fit you anymore. When all the good memories start to hurt like hell, and everything you want to say just grows into deep sighs and tightened lips, may you find the courage in your heart to watch the skyline blue and endless as it grieves for you. May you find the bravery in your palms to loosen the grip until no longer burdens your soul. May you find the strength in your bones to unburden what was, for a very long time, holding you in place. May you be kind to let yourself mourn for what you have already lost. I truly wish that you enjoy where you are, enjoy the little steps that you are taking in your life, and make them count. But I totally understand you. It's not a flaw to always feel nostalgic for everything. You probably have detachment issues, and as you let go of several things in your life right now to welcome the new ones, this chest just couldn't avoid feeling shallow and empty. But I understand that this kind of sadness is completely normal and that you're brave for allowing yourself to get through it. You're brave enough for embracing uncomfortable changes that I know will pay off later on for all your hard work and perseverance. You're brave for letting go of several things to make more space in your life for things that are more deserving for you. Probably you're less brave for doing it all alone, but also for not being afraid of asking for help when there is a need to. You still have to find the courage to live your life without regrets staying you behind. You're feeling guilty because you realize that your feelings faded, but you're not forced to stay in the same place that once made you feel comfortable and happy. I really wish you would stop living someone else's life. Stop prioritizing what other people want instead of following what you desire. Don't be scared to walk in the opposite direction instead. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Fabiana, for sharing this letter to yourself. Takes a lot of courage to write it, takes a lot of courage to read it. And I think we can all learn from that. We all should be writing letters to ourselves. Thank you.
That's exactly what I wrote down. We all should write a letter to ourselves. So I don't know what to now. Now, I think that, yeah, it was very, well, moving as well, because, yeah, it takes some courage to write that, and I appreciate that. And I think that maybe it's because of the topic of the workshop this year, but there is some empowerment in what you're doing, in writing a letter to yourself, and I think that there is empowerment also in the other poems and short stories and texts have been well listened to tonight. So yeah, writing as a form of empowerment, a way of being brave, and also telling ourselves that, yeah, we need that also to become a better version of who we are today. So that's the idea. And yeah, that was very, I also like the fact that each of you has has found a specific way to tell that story, tell a personal experience. In your case, so that was quite, well, not new as a genre, because we have all examples in our mind, but it was new within this workshop. So that was very nice. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really like the idea of the letter to yourself, and also this final idea of like fleeing a place or finding your own place in the world. That is something that we all have to do, and it fits so. It really fits the topic of the workshop, right? Like these advices on how to thrive in the world, right? So yeah, I agree with everything. Thank you for sharing your stories.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabiana. Thank you. And our last emerging writer, and certainly not the least, Anastasia VICCHIO. Welcome, Anastasia.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
there. Yes.
Okay. I was saying I wrote a sort of inner monologue, and it's titled "This Won't Be My Last Cigarette." I thought it would make sense by now. I thought I would have it all figured out, but it turns out I barely do. In fact, I have never been this uncertain about life. It is exhausting to keep trying to ignore the voice in my head. It has become part of me, like a devil on my shoulder that makes me question everything I do or say, trying to keep busy or stay distracted just to prevent the chance of a single thought occurring. I know what I have to do, but I don't have the energy to do it. When you're used to chaos, you find discomfort and boredom in peace. You know what you have to do, what you have to say, but God forbid you dare to actually do or say that, because what then? What about the facade you worked so hard to build and keep up? The calm, unbothered, cool girl mask. Will it turn its back on you? Everything I did, all the times I've picked myself up off the floor and kept going, everything I've ever achieved, all the times I've proved to myself how strong I really was, it all seems so distant now, like I'm a totally different person, like I could never do that again. And I want to know what void I'm trying to fill, what it is that makes me so scared, but I don't have the answer, or maybe I'm just too afraid to find that out. This feeling of not existing unless someone is watching, is it ever going to go away? Are you alive when you're alone? This need to always prove something to others, this need for your existence to be validated by external sources. Are you going to be able to get rid of it? Are you trying to heal, or are you just distracting yourself? What will happen when you finally lose control? What then? Will everything come crumbling down, or will you fight back? Are the walls caving in, or am I just getting bigger? Everyone has to let go at some point. I wonder when I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. Very touching, very important questions to ask oneself. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
That was, I'd say, short but powerful. And so thank you for that. Yeah. And again, some of the ideas that we've been working on, and that all these stories there, and I appreciated the especially the idea of losing control to find yourself. That's something that it's like a part of your story, and also the need to change in order to move forward and find someone's true or identity. So it's not just about healing something that already exists, but it's also about finding something and someone new, like a brand new us somehow. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Anastasia. That was a wonderful story, and it takes courage to share this, like to talk about these topics. And I love the performance, and you really conveyed all the emotion through your voice. So thank you about that. And yeah, like the professor, I love the kind of like having control and letting go and finding this balance and finding yourself in the middle of this healing journey. So thank you. It was really powerful.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you very much for listening.
Well, a round of applause for Caterina, Tiziana, Chiara Maria, Carmen, Emma, Fabiola, Fabiana, Anastasia. Thank you for sharing your stories, for moving us, for making us identify with your characters or your emotions. Thank you very much. It's, one of the main themes in the workshop is going beyond your comfort zone. And I think you all did that. And I hope you continue to write. I look forward to reading or listening to more of your work.
Yeah, stepping out of your comfort zone is very important, not only for this performance, like something you need in your life. And that's why I think that this workshop is very important also for what we do as university teachers, as university, with our university programs, something that usually is not done in Italy. So that's something that I really appreciate. And it's also useful for them, because sometimes, especially when they have to sit or when they have to take an exam, they have all, this anxiety. So it's useful also for that. So it's good. I mean, you should have the same attitude. So yeah, keep going. Thank you.
Well, we have a few minutes. We can open it up if anyone would like to. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying we have a few minutes. We can open it up if people have any comments or questions, or you can use the chat because we will get it with the recording.
Here there is a comment about Anastasia's piece, the last one, by Anna Romano. I love the use of questions in Anastasia's piece. Yeah, that too. I don't know if you, Anastasia, if you want to maybe tell us why you decided to use those questions, or what is the function of those questions in your writing, and why?
I think when I wrote this all at once. It just came like that, and I couldn't stop it. And I think the questions were the ones that I was trying to ask myself, but I was probably too afraid all this time to actually do that. And since I haven't really found an answer to those, I decided to go with the questions, because it is important to, how they say, the first step towards solving a problem is realizing that you have one. It's just, you can't get there in a short period of time, but you have to acknowledge and just be proud of yourself, or just the fact that you are noticing that there's a pattern of something that needs to be changed. And you will get there in time. Answers may come with time while you live life and experience things, but for now, all that I am currently left with are, question marks, generally speaking. So.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you. I actually have a question to everybody, so to the 8 emerging writers, because of course when we think about suffering, first of all, or dealing with a very difficult situation and then trying to find out to heal, to thrive, to flourish, to blossom again. So this idea, right, this metaphor as well that you've been working on this year. Of course, one way to deal with that is to use the first person pronoun, I. That will be like me telling my own experience, and maybe that's like the way you prefer, the way it's easier for you, the way that you actually feel more comfortable with. Or it could be like I don't want to use that very direct personal first person pronoun, but instead I would tell someone else's story. But of course then it will be like me working and dealing with something that is anyway personal. That's what most of the time writing is about. So I was just wondering, what do you think actually about that? Is it easier, or does it work? Is it better if we use the I, or So the first person or a third person to talk about this topic in particular. Because of course, then the reaction within the reader or the listener is different. And that's part also of, you know, it's a narrative strategy as well. So I don't know if you want to say something about that, especially thinking about your own experience in this workshop. Or maybe not.
I personally think that when somebody writes in third person, and that's my case, it is because we need a sort of alter ego in order to express ourselves better. It's a paradox because we need a mask to show our real face, our real feelings, our real points of view about the whole world. And if I use the first person in my short story, it would have been, I don't know, harsh to perform it because, I don't know, I'm not used to share my personal views in a direct way. So I personally prefer the third person in order to filter my views.
And of course, it doesn't have to be necessarily, you know, about us. It could be really about thinking and writing about someone else's experience. It doesn't have to be like, okay, everything that I write is about me and my own experiences, of course. Also when you use the I, you know, it's not necessarily the writer, the other. It's, yeah, sorry.
But I guess that using the I person, even if I didn't write about myself personally, would have sort of forced me to share something personal. Nilly-willy, I would have done it, even if not consciously. It would have pushed me to tell something more personal, even if I didn't want to.
Thank you.
Caterina, did you want to comment?
Yes, I think using I in the story in first person, it becomes much more powerful. It brings the reader into what you actually want to express. So I think your feelings are conveyed in a much stronger way. And it just brings the reader into your atmosphere, into your dimension. I think that's what exactly my case, it's exactly what I wanted to transport, the feelings and the harsh moments and also the harsh emotions. I think every person has personal stories to talk about. So I think the I becomes very important because we can all relate, I think, to the story or maybe just to certain parts of the story. And I think that's why I personally used I, just to bring in the reader to what the sensation was and what I actually wanted to say.
Thank you, Caterina.
Thank you.
If I may, first of all, I want to give my congratulations to each and every one of you for sharing these touching stories. Like, they were all so different, but all really moving, and I really appreciated that. And I wanted to ask you, because like recalling my past experience in the workshop, like I know that it helped me like go back to writing after I had been stuck for years, and like finding and recovering my creativity, my authorial voice. And I wanted to ask you, how did the workshop help you do that? And if it was your first time writing also, or if you've been doing that for years, or I don't know, whoever wants to comment on that.
Can I answer, Licia, if it's okay?
Yes, of course. Go right ahead.
I want to thank Professor Casagranda and Licia CANTON for having given us these opportunities. This is my second time that I'm participating in this workshop. And it just really opened my mind on how writing can be so important in one's life and how it really brings you to heal through it. But not only that, it creates a better feeling within. So I'm really happy that it's also it's creative writing. It's not just writing about oneself, but it's also applying the different techniques, the different styles, the different genres that Licia CANTON has been so good at conveying and teaching us. I thank you so much. I thank both of you for what you have given us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you have given us tonight, and yeah, thank you, Licia, also for what you've just said about learning the techniques. That's also very important, and I must say that tonight I think that we had a glimpse of that, because you could tell how one of the meetings is about polishing the story. So first you get the idea and then you start working on that, but then you have to polish it, and of course that's what Licia is there for. And I think that's, yeah, you could tell that also in your stories, the different strategies that were used. So that was also very nice. Thanks. And I must also say that for us, this is just this is not just about using your creativity to write. It has also something to do with your language skills, because of course you all study modern languages. And maybe something that we didn't say at the beginning, for those who actually don't know this group, some of you are MA students, so your level of English is, let's say, higher because you are older. We also have a first-year student this year, and I must say that I was impressed also by that, because of course then using English, working on that, and that is something. So yeah, that's also part of the of what we are trying to do. Thank you. So yeah, I was very happy about that too. Thanks.
Yes, and this year I must say it's a smaller group. For the people who are here in the public, the audience, these workshops take place just before exams. So we did have people sign up and then withdraw because there's so much going on at this time. So it's even more impressive that 8 participants completed, despite everything else that's going on in their academic and personal lives. So I want to congratulate you for that as well. And because it was a small group, I think we got to know one another better, or at least I got to know you better, which is I read some of the stories that were shared here many times, and I've seen different versions, different lengths. So it's really interesting and satisfying to see the final version, to hear the final version at the microphone. All right. So if there aren't any other comments or questions, I would suggest that we close and we go over to the other side to celebrate. Okay. So I just want to thank all of you for sharing your work. And I'd like to thank Professor Casagranda and Professoressa Naccarato for being here, and the University of Calabria and the department, and everyone who came and went, because you noticed that there were more people at the beginning, fewer now, people who took time off their lunch break here in Canada to come, your family members, friends, etc. Thank you so much for supporting us. And especially a big thank you to ELAN and ISO for providing technical assistance. As soon as I have the recording, we would include it in Accenti's YouTube channel, and I will share it with you, and you can share it with those friends and family who weren't able to be here. Thank you very much.
If I may, yeah, thank you very much. Also, I would like to thank you, Licia, first of all. Again, it's been wonderful working with you also for this 4th edition. And thanks to, of course, thank you to the 8 emerging writers, the 8 students. And hopefully, yeah, as I was saying before, we'll be able to have a 5th edition of this workshop next year. Maybe not, at the end of the academic year. So maybe, but Licia, then we have to start, planning ahead. So
we have to start planning now.
Now, yeah, exactly.
As soon as I've issued the certificates, we start planning next edition.
Yeah, that would be a smart move. And thank you also. I would like to thank ELAN and all the participants, those who joined us to listen to the stories of these emerging writers. And again, thank you to the Department of Humanities of the University of Calabria. As I said before, this is not something that takes place in every university in Italy. So I think that's also important. And we all appreciate that quite a lot. So thank you again, and see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day, evening.
Bye.
Bye.
And thank you, Anastasia, also for
yes, thank you, Anastasia.
No,
for
thank
being here with us today and for sharing your comments and your thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. It was lovely to hear the stories, so I was glad to be here.
And see you all in a few weeks in Calabria for the Accenti Magazine Festival, the International Festival of the Arts. We're going to have Rosetta Rosato will be with us, but also
Yes.
I can't see her now. I think she...
Yes, she's there. She's still there.
No, yeah, but there was someone else, I think.
Anna Romano.
Anna Romano, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
She'll be with us in a few weeks in Calabria. So, and I hope that also the students will be there.
Sure. Yes, we can.
And yeah, I forgot.
Anastasia
Sorry.
as well.
Anastasia will deliver a paper. Caterina will read a story. So yeah.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah, we'll meet again soon.
So you all have the link to go back to the workshop, right? See you there. Thank you so much, Isocetel. You want to say goodbye? Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and close the Zoom room, but it was lovely getting to hear the stories. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.